Good afternoon, members of the Sea to Sky Regional Hospital District Board. My name is Angela Belsham and I am the corporate officer for the SLRD. As your corporate officer, I am calling this December 11th meeting to order at 3:03 p.m. We would like to recognize that this meeting is being held on the traditional territory of the Lillooet Nation. The first order of business is election of chair and vice chair as required in November of each year by the Local Government Act and the SLRD's procedure bylaw. I would like to thank Directors Stoner and Ford for holding the positions of chair and vice chair over the past year. With that, I would like to call for nominations of chair for the remainder of this year and the year 2025. Calling a first time for nominations of the chair.
I'd like to nominate Director Richmond for chair.
I do not accept.
Pardon me?
I do not accept.
Gee, that's too bad.
Well, thank you, but I didn't.
Nominate Director Ford.
Calling the second time for nominations of the chair.
This is.
Director Ford, do you consent to the nomination?
We didn't. I'll do it. I'll accept the nomination unless there's someone else that would like to do it.
Who nominated Councillor Ford?
I do.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yeah, just say what?
Sorry, Director, Chair Ford.
Calling a third and final time for nominations of chair.
Nominate Jen Stoner as the chair.
Jenna Stoner. as the
Yeah,
chair.
I'll-
Jenna, do you accept the nomination?
Can I rescind my acceptance?
Right.
Oh, did I get the
We don't
wrong
need
way?
to have an election.
Yes.
Wrong way around, didn't I?
You got the wrong J.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was confused by that, sorry. I'm not accepting the nomination. Thank you, but no. Jenna can do it.
Assuming she's accepting.
So, yeah. If she says no.
Did Director Stoner accept this?
I accept the nomination. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd
So
like to nominate
being that
Director
Director Ford has rescinded, or is not accepted, and Director Stoner has accepted, see no further nominations, I declare the nominations closed. And Director Stoner is acclaimed as the chair for 2025, and I'll turn the meeting over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Belsham. At this time, I'd like to call for nominations for vice chair, please.
you messed up that.
Twice.
That's very wise.
Well, I
Looks
nominate
like you're alone, Director Stoner.
Director Richmond.
I'll accept the nomination for vice chair.
Wonderful. I will call for a second time. Are there any further nominations?
What about you? Well, I can't nominate.
You want to be the
another
vice
person.
chair?
No, I'm just kidding.
He's just eating
No.
time is what he's doing.
Call for a third time. Are there any further nominations? Not hearing any, I will declare Director Richmond acclaimed for vice chair. Thank you very much. Looking forward to working with Vice Chair Richmond and the board. With that, we will move on to our agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda before us, please? Moved by Director Richmond, seconded by Director Crompton. Any opposed? Motion carries. I don't have full visibility into the room. I can see a few of you, so I might just rely on Heather, thank you, to give me either a speakers list and or identify if there's anybody opposed when I call. Does that work?
Mhm.
Yeah, great. Thank you. We don't have a closed board agenda today, so we'll skip number 3 and nothing to rise and report. We do have a consent agenda before us. Can I see someone move that? Moved by Director Pettingill, seconded by Director Rainbow. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Is there any business arising from the minutes today? Not seeing any. We're on to item 7.1, which is a request for decision on the 2025 provisional budget. And I believe that Director LaFrance will be here with us as a reminder to the board and to those watching. This is typically an administrative process. We do our full budgeting process in the new year, but Director LaFrance, I'll pass it over to you. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Chair, may I ask a question before Director LaFrance?
Yes, please go ahead.
I noticed in 10.1 that there's reference to a request for considerable amount of money. And I wondered if that well, it would impact the budget, so I'm wondering if we can kind of consider that at the same time as 7.1.
I'll take a first stab at that and then I'll pass it over to Director LaFrance. The provisional budget is really just to allow us to continue on operations through 2024. Our fulsome budget discussions, and I think what will come out of 10.1 will actually be taken into account in our February, March decisions around the 2025 budget when we actually adopt the 2025 budget in March. So while it feels a little bit backwards, and I hear you there, the provisional budget as is discussed in 7.1 really is just like a matter of continuity for the current year. But Director LaFrance, do you have further thoughts on that?
That's exactly right. So it's basically to allow the operations to continue. It's only an annual budget that the hospital district adopts every year. So for January, they want you to have this provisional budget ready.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Go ahead, Director LaFrance.
Good. So before you was the 2025 provisional budget, and it was basically, I just did an assumption for requisition increase. I just did a small 3% increase to show for reference only what that would look like. And it's $47,000. That's the extra requisition amount. And at the back of the bylaw, the very last sheet shows you the impact of that 47,000. But the revised roll is still being used. We haven't received the 2025 completed roll yet, so it's really just that impact that we see. So the estimated 2024 forecast carry forward into 2025 is about $11,000, and it's basically additional interest income we earned minus the additional interest expense on our MFA debt due to the rate renewal, increasing the rate slightly. And that actually carries forward into 2025 as well. So the interest payments for 2025 will be higher than 2024. Due to that same, there's two issues. One issue renewed in 2024, one issue renewed in 2025. I didn't add any of UCH ask into this request, but just wanted to show the current capital projects being the CT scanner and the remaining projects from 2023. And then the contingency amount being $1,141,000. That would be unallocated funding. And actually in the total unallocated reserve balance, if we use this requisition amount without any additional projects being approved today, would be $2,393,714. So that's after the 2025 edition of the one. And yeah, I think I'll open up to questions if there's any questions.
Thank you, Director LaFrance. Looking on the board table, are there any questions at this time? Not seeing any. I have somebody move the provisional budget for 2025. Moved by Director Crompton, seconded by Director Rainbow. Any questions or any comments?
Rainbow's not in the room, so.
Mr. Director Herford.
I second it.
Oh, that was Director Herford. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, they need to be moved separately, just to point clarification. Yeah.
So first three readings, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, first three readings is what we're on. Not seeing any comments. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And then adoption of the provisional budget, moved by Director Herford, seconded by Director Richmond. Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Director LaFrance. Just trying to find where I am. We had no business arising from the minutes. Is there any CAO verbal update at this time? None today. Thank you, CAO Paul. A direction request came forward for, oh, sorry, this is the Cedar Sky Regional Hospital District Board Meeting Schedule 8.2. To pass it over to Ms. Harris. Do we have a presentation on this, or is it just a resolution?
I think you missed 8.2, the Cedar Sky Healthcare Provider Feedback on Short and Long-Term Priorities. Maybe you're looking at you might be looking at an older agenda cover.
Thank you. I was. There we go. 8.2. Thank you very much. Information report, Cedar Sky Healthcare Provider Feedback. Go ahead.
Hi, Gail Harris, Legislative Coordinator with SSRHD. This is just an information report from the September board meeting for a request to the local healthcare providers for their infrastructure priorities. Just here for any questions.
Thank you for collecting this information. Were there any questions on the submissions that we received to date?
Nope.
Nobody? Great. All right, I'll look for a motion to receive, please. Moved by Director Herbert, seconded by Director Richmond. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now on to 8.3, which is a request for decision on the board meeting calendar. Back on track. Pass it over to staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, Raylene Rehill, Legislative Coordinator. This request for decision brings the 2025 meeting calendar for regular meetings of the board for consideration. Taking the September 25th resolution into account, that meetings be held at 9 a.m. prior to the regular SLRD board meetings in the months indicated in the staff report.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions on this?
So one question / thought, just to complicate matters. I just wonder, it's pretty rare that we have an hour and a half long hospital district meeting. I'm wondering if 9:30 is a more appropriate start time.
That would be my question too.
Yeah, go ahead, Director Ford.
Yeah, that was my question too, is maybe 9:30 would be a more appropriate time.
Back to staff, is that a change that we're able to make here with this resolution?
Is at the discretion of the board? Yes, the regular meeting for the board does meet at 10:30, so.
Yeah, Director Crompton, go ahead.
Make a resolution as laid out with 9:30 as the start time.
I can second.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. Any further comments?
I have a question. I know I feel I like this timing better and I agree with this. I just want to understand our ability to start earlier or post earlier if we do need that capacity. I get that we don't normally, but perhaps there have been some that did need longer. And are we complicating ourselves? What's more complicated? What's proposed here and flexing back to 9 when we need it, or that gap between? I don't know that I just want to make sure we know what we're getting ourselves into with this. Generally supportive, but is there clarity on that?
It is my understanding that as long as we provide reasonable notice and posting the start time, we can adjust accordingly. I think that it is very rare that our meetings go over an hour, maybe perhaps during budget time.
Yeah, okay, no, that's fine. Thank you. Supportive of this direction. I just want to make sure that we're all clear that we have more room for meeting this time.
All right, with that, I will call the question. Any opposed?
No.
Director Rainbow, did you have a question?
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I like the idea of 9:30 start. I can see the possibility of needing a little bit more time. Is it possible to adjourn at 10:25, say, and then pick it up after the board meeting on the same day? We could do that?
I will turn to staff.
Yeah.
We don't need to make these decisions today.
No, I just asked if it was possible to do that. That's all I'm asking.
From a procedures perspective, I believe that it is. I'll seek clarification from corporate officer.
Listen to them.
All right, just be quiet. Okay? Yeah, I was being very polite right now. This is an open meeting.
Through the chair, that is possible, to recess the meeting and reconvene at a later time, perhaps after the board meeting is complete.
Thank you.
That's more than possible. And within our procedures bylaws, we do have notice requirements. And as long as we're meeting those notice requirements, we can flex with the start time if that is required, particularly around those agendas that we may view as being a little bit heavier.
Thank you very much for that clarity, Director Belsham. With that, we have a motion on the floor for a 9:30 start time for our board meetings as laid out in our package for the months January, February, March, April, May, June, July, September, and December. And we can waive those if necessary. I'll call the question. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. On to item 9.1, Chair's verbal report. I don't think I have anything at this time as I'm just coming back and up to speed, with the exception of we are in the process of trying to schedule our next working group meeting with VCH, I believe, for the new year. So Director Richmond, Vice Chair Richmond, I'll loop you into that correspondence. There's also been a reassertion with the Sunshine Coastal Regional Hospital District, that regional district, to reinvigorate the discussion around the MOU with VCH, with the regional hospital districts, which has kind of gone silent for the past year. So hopefully we'll see some movement on that in the coming months, but more to come. With that, I think that's all I have for a chair's verbal update at this time. I do want to turn to Director Ford, who steered the ship in my absence for the last little while, if there was anything that she would like to report out onto the board in this item.
The Vancouver Coastal Health was in caretaker mode during the provincial election, so they didn't have any motion there. And the MOU group of Cadet and Sunshine Coast Regional three-way meeting with Vancouver Coastal Health has been on hold because of the master planning process here in Vancouver Coastal. So we don't have anything new to report. I think that's it.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Any clarifying questions or comments from the board? Go ahead, Director Crompton.
I just missed an opportunity to speak to a previous item as we're moving quickly, which is it's my hope and expectation that though the answers to that letter that went out regarding priorities will come back to the Sea Sky Regional Hospital District budget process for consideration. And my hope is that that becomes a regular process where we ask for information and then we consider it as we make decisions. We're at a place now where our reserves are growing as we've hoped they would, so that we could drive regional decisions through the healthcare budget process. So the hospital district healthcare process. So anyway, budget process. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We'll make sure that that correspondence ends up on the agenda when we talk about budget in the new year. With that, could I see a motion to receive the chair's verbal report? Moved by Director Richmond, seconded by Director Rainbow. Thank you very much. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then we're on to item 10.1, which is correspondence for action. This was referred from the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District Board, the request for funding for the Sea to Sky Community Service Harrow Road Community Hub Project, which is a request for funding for $1 million. We did not bring Ms. Russell back to this meeting. I think there were just a few of us who missed the presentation at the Regional District Board, and we've had a chance to go back and watch that presentation. So this is for deliberation at this board table. I don't know if staff have any further comments or thoughts at this point, or if you just want us to deliberate.
Thank you to the chair. At this point, it would be about seeking available funding, and if there is any, whether or not currently within our means or external. At first perusal, as I understand from staff and Director LaFlance is here, there isn't that kind of reserve that would qualify for the current plan. There are projected people, tenants within that area that then it may qualify, but without that guarantee, it's difficult to commit funds.
Sorry, I didn't follow that.
So the tenant, if the tenant actually directly relates to healthcare, it's a health clinic or something like that, there are funds that could support it. That would need to be guaranteed that that space was specifically for healthcare provided.
Yeah, Director Richmond, go ahead.
So I'm going to, and when the time is right, propose that this gets referred to the budget conversation there, so we can look at it in the context of the overall budget. My comments in general and on that are that they're gonna bring some much needed healthcare services to this area. Mental health especially, where we have a real shortage. And it's gonna serve the whole area. It's gonna serve all of Area C, it's gonna serve the Lake Road. There's been a lot of consultation with Lillooet, Lake Nations, the Quaqua, in terms of what are the appropriate and what are the appropriate services and what are the appropriate way to provide those services in a comfortable and safe way. So it's going to provide service for the whole area. So I would definitely like to see this board consider some sort of financial support for the project through the budget process. We can decide if and what that number might look like. And if there's, so that's my comment on that. If there's any question about, you know, ensuring that it's healthcare as to the CAO's comments, I would like to suggest that we connect with Ms. Russell and sort of confirm or figure out how we can confirm that. This space is for healthcare provision downstairs, or a good portion of it. So I think we would just need to do our due diligence as per the CAO's comment, and we can sort of coordinate with her to find out that information. But yeah, I'm hoping that we will give really good consideration to supporting this in some ways through the budget, and when the time's right, I'll make that motion.
Thank you for those comments. That was going to be my one question back to staff. Reading the Hospital District Act is quite prescriptive in terms of how we can actually allocate funds, specifically to establish, acquire, construct, reconstruct, enlarge, operate, and maintain hospitals and hospital facilities. And so I think I agree. I'd like this to come back in the more fulsome budget deliberations, but with a gut check as to how we can align that with our areas of spending with regards to the Hospital Act. Director Pettingill, did I see your hand?
Yeah, and don't need a question or an answer now, but when this comes back, just to understand, is this something that we could, if we, you know, everything lined up, could we requisition for this over 1 year or 4 years? Like, do we have that capacity and we could just throw it on top, or we have to sort of carve it out of existing reserves, or just like to understand the options we would have? And again, I don't need to know that right now, but.
Thank you for that. Director Rainbow?
Thank you. I completely agree with Director Richmond and will support anything he proposes in that area. Just a couple of comments. I think Vancouver Coastal Health are involved with this project, as I understand it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's not a stretch to be saying that this is a health-related project. So I think we're okay there. And I just want to reflect back to a presentation we had probably 2 years ago now, and I can't remember the person's name, but they were talking about youth mental health in the sea, the sky. And it was a pretty dire picture. And our comment at the end of it was, oh, it's very interesting, but what can we do? You know, and it was a presentation to the Regional District Board. So so what can we do? Here's something we can do. We have the power, the ability to be involved with this project, to raise some taxes, to put some money into it, to help this thing happen. And is it needed? Absolutely. There's no question about that. We are short of health services, mental health services throughout the corridor, and we absolutely have to help this not-for-profit society that is taking the lead with this.
Thank you for the comment. I see CAO Paul's hand. Please go ahead.
I want to clarify that, this isn't about, the restrictions we have isn't against the needs of the community, it's the restrictions on the funding. And we just need to know what guarantees need to be made in order to release those funds. An intention of tenancy, at this point, we have already done some investigation, is not enough. And for Vancouver Coastal House, we have to make sure that we're not stacking on something that's already funded through Vancouver Coastal House. So staff are trying to find very creative ways that are within the restrictions of the fund to be able to support this.
Can I ask a point of clarity to Director LaFrance in terms of, has the hospital district, it hasn't in my time of being on this board, funded things outside of the requests that have come forward through VCH for the existing hospitals or hospital facilities within the corridor?
Yes.
Like, do we have a track record of funding nonprofits in this space?
We have a couple instances where we haven't used VCH and gone just with our own board resolution to assist a couple different things. There was the Center Point, which was a designated health facility by the minister, which is the requirement. And then we did the expansion on the Whistler trauma room.
That was $1 million.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Director Richmond.
So I was just, sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted. There's I think a couple others come to my mind, like Under One Roof, I think was one of them, and another one that just slipped, but either way.
Foundry.
And this is Foundry services that they want to bring in here, so. Yeah, no, maybe I'll restrict my comments till when we're actually talking about this string, but I'm good for now.
I don't see any. Director Herford?
Yeah, thank you. I think as I appreciate the discussion so far, it feels like staff are already sort of investigating what it would take and whether that, you know, whether the project is willing to do or is able to do those things, whether it's seeking something from the ministry or having a time, I don't know, whatever those things could be to have access to what funds. That feels like that's part of the work that would happen on a motion to refer to the budget. But it also, I just want to make sure that motion isn't just like putting it down the road. It's also like when we get there to have that discussion, we're pretty clear that we'd like to have some work done to see what a possible path could be, should we choose to pursue it. And sometimes when we refer something elsewhere, I don't know, we're always dictating that work. So is that kind of the intended path if this was to be referred to the budget, which I think is likely the best course of action today, but, or is there a specific motion that staff would like to sort of do work on this in advance of that discussion?
Just referring it to the budget at this point, we'll bring it back in January with more details of how we can add this to the budget. And what we would need before we can add it to the budget.
Okay. So I'll move if it's referred to the budget process.
Second.
Any further comments at this point? Not seeing any hands. I'll call the question. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much for the discussion. Is there any late business arising today that anybody would like to bring forward? Not seeing any. That means we don't have anything under 12. On to item 13, any directors notice a motion? Yeah, Tony, sorry, Director Rainbow?
So I was jumping the gun, I was going to move adjournment.
Oh, yeah, we weren't quite there yet.
No, no.
But now might be your chance if there was no, oh, Director
Move
Herford?
adjournment.
I'd like to move adjournment, please.
That was
By
kind of petty.
Director
That
Herford,
was a little petty.
seconded by
Tony's just taking
Director
a moment.
Rainbow. Let me call to question. I don't have a gavel from all the way over here. Any
Correct.
opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much for helping me